Hey guys, crude oil, is it topping or are we about to get a continuation move higher? Hmm, let's dive into the analysis. Okay, so let's start by looking at the daily chart. You can see what I've got here. We're in a diagonal. The whole overall structure is in a diagonal, hallmarked by overlap and things moving in threes all over the place. Makes it great for scalping. Very difficult to catch longer moves because they just overlap themselves and whipsaw around. However, we are starting to get a little clarity here. Let's take a look at this daily and see where this move up, which I'm counting as 5 waves up, right into this resistance zone. I think what's interesting is last week, for the second half of last week, we could not get a candle body close above the 764. We did have 3 wicks, 3 days in a row, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, failing to get above this area. So I think it's reasonable to say this is resistance. And if that is 5 up, you can expect a pullback that would either be considered, there's a couple options, a wave 1, a wave 2 pullback, or if this is an A wave, then you get a deeper pullback possibly for a B wave. So that all assumes that this is the low and that this is a larger 1, 2, or A, B to the upside. Now, I'm a day trade scalper, so I don't spend a whole lot of time deliberating over whether this is a 1, 2 or an AB, or even right here, is this an AB or a 1, 2? Because to my way of trading, it doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is catching reasonable areas where a reversal could happen. This is one of those areas. Let's drill down a little further in here on the 4-hour. Now, I've got one of my clues that I like is the market order bubble by Leviathan. No clue is 100% accurate, obviously. However, this is interesting because where you see a cluster of bubbles, especially the larger bubbles, it can mark an area for a pullback. Now, it doesn't always, but it did here. You can go back in the past and see this for yourself. It did up here, although we got this massive retracing almost the entire amount of that move. Now, it is possible that that already happened. That's what I'm thinking. You got all these bubbles up here, especially the large bubbles on these 2 candles. Just means a lot of buying, retail buying. It marked the top over here, and there was also a similar attempt to get back up and fail. Same here. Possibly the same thing just happened here. So that's just a clue. So we are in a trend line area. I do believe it's 5 up. This is overlapping a Gorpy and corrective. So it's not ideal. It's not clear. But this would be potentially a target region for a pullback. But we need more clues. And actually, before we move away from the 4-hour, I don't talk much about technicals these days. But let's talk about technicals. MACD, the moving average crossed over the signal line. So even though it's kind of neck and neck, but if you had to choose, is this bullish or bearish? I would say it's bearish, not by much, but hey, this could be a topping area. Same with the RSI, could be a topping area. Can it move higher from here? Yes, but the moving average has moved below the signal line. So it is possible this is also signaling a topping area. There is a squeeze setup, just indicating that whenever this breaks free, you could expect a larger than expected move, to borrow from the options terminology. So, my bias is that this is topping. This is suggesting that that's the case. And if this does pull back, this is certainly enough fuel in the tank. If this does start pulling back and this releases all of this pent up energy from this sideways action towards the last half of the week, last week, if that energy gets released, this is consistent with having enough fuel to get it down here to lower levels in the week, or at least start breaking some of these downside levels early in the week. But the fly in the ointment, because there's always a fly in the ointment, is the RSI stochastic, which can get embedded to the downside, but the way it looks when it gets embedded doesn't really look like this. This looks like it's bouncing. But you know what? You could also view the bouncing as resetting to get lower, to oscillate and come back lower, because it can obviously do that. In fact, price can do anything. So this is a fly in the ointment, but these other clues support the idea that we could be topping. All right, so now let's hop down to the 1 hour. Now you can see this overlapping GORP in here. Draw some trend lines. Here are some targets. Maybe it's a wave 2 if it's really bullish. It just has to come back to grab this liquidity down here. If it wants to be a B wave, there's a lot more liquidity lower. So I'm open to both. But the thing is, we'll know more about these targets once this area, this region clarifies itself. So let's go. Now we're getting into the scalping world. Look at this overlapping mess. But we had some very successful scalps in here, by the way. Shout out to my buddy Armando in Miami, the Professor Trades, pretty much the king of scalping, honestly. He's using a slightly different method. He's definitely not using Elliott wave, but he is using fibs, and he is using simple price action on the lower time frames. And just like any Elliott wave guy, he starts with the longer time frames, and then you drill on down. I think any successful methodology is doing that kind of thing. Know your time frame. So this is a 21-minute chart, just so you can see kind of where the boundaries are of the structure. It's making higher lows. It's made one lower high. But this thing is whipsawing and crisscrossing, nothing definitive. So let's go down one more level. I'm a day trade scalper, so I have no choice but to come down here and look at a 5-minute chart. You know, here's a potential structure. Here are some fibs. Look, this could be 5 down. It measures well for Elliott wave. It has even a ratio of wave 1 through 3 versus 5. It also, I have a supply demand zone down here. It wicked down into that zone and just barely crossed over where I wanted to see the ratio. We caught a lot of this because of that. Had a great scalping week, both directions. And then now this move up does not measure so great as a 5-wave impulsive move. So then it got rejected. Guess what? This could arguably be another 5-wave move down. It came up a little short of where the ideal target would have been for 5 waves down off of this top. But this pullback doesn't look impulsive. It got contained. So I could view this as a 1-2, 1-2 to the downside. Let's put Armando's fibs on here. Now, I've borrowed his fibs. I'm not giving them back, Armando. Thank you. But let's look at this couple of, I'm trying to keep it real simple. Let's put the fib here for that as a swing high and this as a swing low, okay? Which is 78.31. So basically Sunday night into the open, what am I going to be looking for as additional clues as to whether or not my remaining short runner is going to survive or not? So ideally, I really don't want to see this. This would just be a clue. It would be awesome if price doesn't come up much higher than the 50% level right here and gets rejected. It would just retain the structure of lower highs. It would retain the structure of lower highs. And then the next thing we need to see is get below. If this really is a 1-2, 1-2 setup and we're immediately bearish, what's going to happen is it's not going to get above 78.59 and it's going to break this first support, and then it's going to keep coming and get all the way down here. And I like it when there's an Elliott wave level that lines up with an Armando fib. And there's also another point of interest, an important low down here. So call it a zone. So you have basically parameters here for the short setup. Now the ultimate parameter is 78.87, because can this come all the way back up into here and retain a short setup? Yes. If it gets above 78.87, by then I probably will, well, it depends when that happens. I was going to say by then I will probably already have flipped long, but right now I retain a runner short position left over from Friday, which I normally would not hold a short position over the weekend in crude oil, but I'm so tiny a position. Again, thank you, Armando in Miami, the Professor Trades. Thank you for helping me to size down all of my trades, trade smaller, scale in, scale out, better success overall. Counterintuitive, smaller, better. Thank you, Armando. So what we're doing is if price comes back up in here and gets rejected, I may add to my shorts, but there's not even really a pressing reason to even do that. Where I may add to the short is if it comes down here and you get a 1 hour close down in here, then yeah, I think I'll add to my short. looking for a target to come down into this region. I'm a day trade scalper. I'll take it off. One last thing before I move on. Thank you, Armando. Also, very simple PSAR strategy with 2 different settings on the 5-minute with a 9 SMA. You can see that we're above the SMA. We got both settings on the PSAR dots are showing you the immediate strength, very nano. So I would love to see this come up and get rejected up into this zone. So the key parameters, once more, then I'm done. Immediate parameter 78.59 to the upside. The next parameter 78.87. What we really want to see is get below 78.30 and then get below 78.15 and ideally make it all the way before the next bounce. Come on all the way down, just call a 78 before the next bounce. If you're a bear, you don't want to see this bounce and keep coming. All right, cool. Thank you for watching, guys. And remember, if this is giving you any value, sure would appreciate a like or a subscribe. I'll be doing more analysis during the week nowadays and just posting it on my YouTube channel. So shorter analysis, but Sunday is kind of the longer form. But if you want to keep up to date on the developments of how price is interacting with these structures, make sure you subscribe so you'll just simply know when I posted a video. All right. Thanks for watching. What's up, boy? You going to be shy or are you going to say something?
Yeah. I need a charger.
Okay, my son's going to steal my charger, so that means I got to go. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Shout out to Miles and Ellington.